closing down the Chandong Yellow Mountain Airport. It's so deserted. Not yet. Let's stop boasting now. Every day, we used to have good relationships with this customer and solid connections with that procurement, but now, we can't even spot a ghostly figure. Back when they asked me to move here, I knew it was all over. Where did the consumer population go? Where did the money go? Chinese bosses are feeling puzzled lately. What's happening in this market? Where did all the customers go? Stores on the main streets are closing in rows. International airports' duty-free shops are empty, physical restaurants are closed, and you can't even find a place to have a meal. Many shops are still closed. Duty-free shops used to be crowded, and I can't find a place to eat. I'm so hungry and deserted, so you can imagine. This year's outbound tourism market, it's still challenging for those who go abroad. Formerly a bustling commercial district, now it's empty and desolate. It seems like this year has been in vain. From the beginning of 2023 until now, the end of the year, the only thing left is a bit of hope, consuming even the last strand of hair. At a train station that is large but still without trains, there are many people. Bars couldn't survive and closed down, a vegetable shop couldn't make it and closed down. Over there, a supermarket also couldn't continue and closed down. However, these two pharmacies are holding on pretty well. In a private message from a delivery rider of the Xi'an, a food delivery platform, it's mentioned that before October, there were times when they could handle more than 70 orders a day. However, after October, it dropped to around 40 or 50 orders. Another person, who is a franchisee for multiple restaurant brands, shared their personal experience, stating that they have personally felt how tough this year has been. As expected, with 25 years in the culinary profession, their entrepreneurial attempt has failed again. The rent is $3,000, and the meal isn't expensive, but it's hard to manage in this little more than 50 square meters. They had to clear out the tables, chairs, and air conditioner from their home and go back to work. Despite losing money these past few months, their wife hasn't uttered a single complaint. It's been more than 20 years since they started working. They began at the age of 16 or 17, right after finishing junior high school. After junior high, they started seeking a livelihood with relatives in the village. Following the principle of learning a skill to settle down, they became a chef. In the 25 years, they moved through several cities and finally settled down here. How long have they been running this shop? About 15 months, and they are losing money. In the previous years, there wasn't much competition in this industry. Each restaurant had its own customers, but at some point, selling food also became a form of competition. Doing business this year is really tough. Even after running a restaurant for a year or two, it has never been this difficult. The feeling is like buying ingredients and cooking everything yourself, but without the essence of the fish roe dish. In those years of working from dawn till night, during the good times, earning around $20,000 a month, after many years, managed to buy a small house in the city. The elders in the village used to say, learning the skill of a chef means never being unemployed. However, this year, they have been unemployed several times. Running your own business carries risks. If it doesn't go well, you end up losing money. So, for those who haven't experienced it, it's better not to venture into the restaurant industry. It's really tough. China has transitioned from an incremental market to a stock market, and various industries are now significantly saturated. With intense internal competition, we are currently grappling with a severe economic downturn. The era of quickly amassing wealth and seizing dividends has concluded. People are facing financial constraints, consumption is on the decline, and oversaturation is leading to an excess. The real economy is experiencing a recession. Presently, with a downturn in investment and the substantial uncertainty impacting foreign trade, many ordinary people are growing increasingly anxious and confused. The rich are getting richer, but their destinations remain unknown. The polarization is deepening, more people are in debt, fewer are engaging in consumption, more are unemployed, fewer are initiating businesses, more are turning to live streaming, and fewer are employed in the real economy. Physical stores are witnessing a decline in business, direct sales are being affected by tremendous uncertainty, and many ordinary individuals are experiencing heightened levels of anxiety and confusion. The poor are getting poorer, and the rich, even though they are still rich, may not be as rich as before. The divergence is becoming more serious, with more people in debt, fewer consumers, more unemployment, and fewer entrepreneurs. Live streaming is becoming more popular, but working in traditional industries is decreasing. Recruitment is decreasing, and more people are relying on deceptive practices. Genuine efforts are diminishing. Young people are choosing to lie low, avoiding mortgage and car loans, and refusing to strive for the next generation, not buying houses, not striving, not getting married, and not having children. This reflects the current mindset of more and more young people. Capital giants are cashing out, exiting from physical factories. Traditional companies are facing a breakdown in channels, decreasing foot traffic in offline stores, and the false prosperity of live streaming e-commerce. Many companies are laying off employees. True entrepreneurs are becoming rare. Opportunistic businessmen, who are willing to do anything for money, are causing destruction. They use price wars to kill physical stores, use price wars to kill physical factories, and use price wars to kill many restaurants. These internet giants lack a long-term perspective, exploiting the inherent flaws in consumers to make quick money. This has caused significant damage to the business ecosystem. Even Jack Ma now admits that if he were to start a business today, he would not choose an internet company. As these companies struggle, employees are inevitably laid off. Where will the money come from for consumption? Therefore, for China to move forward, it is crucial to manage and balance the country's business ecosystem. Rectifying the commercial ecology of e-commerce platforms, live streaming, and the business model's transformation to truly support the survival and development of small and micro enterprises. Only then can ordinary people find more job opportunities. Walmart layoffs surge, the struggle of China's lower class. Recently, more than 400 Walmart stores in mainland China are planning a complete withdrawal, sparking widespread attention in society. It is reported that the number of layoffs will exceed 20,000, further deepening the life pressure on the lower class people amid China's current economic challenges. Even a fool would know that this matter is far from simple and involves significant complexities. Recently, in Jiangxi, a lottery player spent a whopping 100,000 yuan buying the same lottery ticket from 2 different lottery stations and winning an astonishing prize of 220 million yuan. This is like standing in the same place and getting struck by lightning hundreds of times within a minute. The peculiar aspect of this incident lies in the fact that he spent 100,000 yuan on the same lottery ticket, cleverly managing to evade taxes. In other words, the entire 220 million yuan prize is his, without a penny in taxes. It's unbelievably precise and flawless. If this person is not someone who traveled back from the future, then he is undoubtedly someone with insider information or market manipulation skills. Now, let's take a look at a shopping mall. This is the first floor, a bit empty and deserted. This area used to sell gold jewelry, but it moved out, and now there are only a few discounted clothing stores. Even the customer traffic at Watson's has been decreasing, and its popularity is insufficient. This store has closed down. When the popularity was high, there used to be long queues of people coming and going from the dance stores on this escalator all day long. This vividly illustrates the significant contrast between the past high popularity of Walmart and the current situation with fewer people. Look, even on the second floor, some stores have closed down, while others are still in business. However, there isn't much left. Rows and rows of stores are closed. Doing business here seems no longer viable. Take a look at this Walmart supermarket. The vegetable selling area has been emptied. The area that used to have the best business for the supermarket, the vegetable section, is now empty. Lastly, I found that there is still a small area for selling vegetables, but it has been moved to this corner and has become much smaller. This is the third floor, where daily necessities are sold. Fewer people, significantly fewer people. The area of this second floor shopping mall has also been reduced by nearly half. Over there used to be something, but now it's all separated off, with much reduced space. Walmart is also in decline. According to reports, China has been facing economic challenges in recent years, making life increasingly difficult for ordinary people. The once bustling Walmart stores are now almost empty, and many people can no longer afford the high prices in the supermarkets. They can only sustain their livelihood by buying cheap and low-quality goods online. The withdrawal of Walmart supermarkets will directly lead to more than 20,000 people losing their jobs. For the already struggling lower-class population, unemployment not only means the interruption of economic sources but also the loss of social status and life security. This wave of layoffs will further exacerbate social instability among the lower class, making their predicament even more severe. At the same time, Walmart's withdrawal also reflects the Chinese government's helplessness in the face of the current economic challenges, as it emphasizes encouraging lottery purchases rather than focusing on substantial economic reforms, leaving the sufferings of the lower-class people unresolved. This short-sighted policy not only fails to address the fundamental issues but also exacerbates social injustice. One of the main reasons behind this change is the downturn in the Chinese economy, while the government seems indifferent to the struggles of the lower class. Instead, the government encourages people to buy lottery tickets, placing hopes of getting rich on winning lottery jackpots. The implementation of this policy has led to many people falling into poverty due to buying lottery tickets, and tragedies of broken families and deaths have occurred frequently. What's even more infuriating is the dark corners within China's lottery industry, with a considerable amount of funds being misused and flowing into the pockets of corrupt officials, leaving many lower-class people who buy lottery tickets feeling angry and dissatisfied. This situation not only raises questions about the government's credibility but also deepens the disappointment of the lower-class people in the entire social system. At this time, Chinese society urgently needs the government to take practical measures to improve the living conditions of the lower-class people rather than focusing on unrealistic policies that rely on dreams of winning the lottery. In times of economic hardship, the government should pay more attention to infrastructure development, support small and medium-sized enterprises, and improve social welfare, instead of relying on luck-based activities like lottery purchases. It must be said that Walmart's withdrawal is not just a disappointment for a single company but a cry of helplessness from the lower-class people in the economic winter. It calls for the government to fundamentally review its current economic policies and take practical measures to improve the lives of the people, rather than avoiding responsibility by focusing on dreams of purchasing and escaping in the illusion. Otherwise, the societal rift will deepen, and the lower-class people will continue to be victims of this ruthless economic chill. Next, let's look at some reports on Chinese issues. Recently, the deserted scene at Shanghai Pudong International Airport has attracted widespread attention. As a result, numerous duty-free shops are closing down, casting a heavy shadow over the entire retail industry. This is not just a problem for one airport but a clear manifestation of China's economic instability. The mass closure of duty-free shops means a reduction in business vitality. For businesses that have long relied on tourism and duty-free shopping, this is undoubtedly an additional blow. It brings significant psychological pressure and livelihood concerns to airport workers. The shadow of unemployment looms over them, leading to profound reflection on society. Not only in Shanghai, but the number of unemployed people in cities all over China is also rapidly increasing. A wave of corporate layoffs is wreaking havoc, causing great concern. The booming live-streaming industry is not immune to difficulties. News of difficulties in making money has emerged in the Hangzhou live-streaming industry, with physical stores closing down one after another. This series of events highlights the profound challenges facing the current Chinese economy. The closure of physical stores not only signifies business bankruptcy but also means a large number of employees losing their jobs. This has a significant impact on society, and many families face an economic crisis, directly impacting the living standards of residents. The difficulties in the live-streaming industry also reflect the downturn in consumer spending, Honda's production line cancellation, and China's economic decline. The harsh reality of a sluggish market makes people worry about future development trends. On the other hand, Chinese car companies are experiencing a wave of layoffs, with Honda Group announcing the cancellation of production lines and foreign companies accelerating their withdrawal from the mainland. This series of events undoubtedly signals the rapid decline of the Chinese economy, bringing unprecedented anxiety to the vast labor force. The wave of layoffs is not limited to the automotive industry but extends to various sectors. This not only means that many families will face financial difficulties but also indicates the collapse of the entire industrial chain. The cancellation of Honda Group's production line is a signal that the downturn in the automotive market has affected the core of manufacturing. The accelerated withdrawal of foreign enterprises suggests a more profound concern about China's economic prospects. Due to a lack of foreign trade orders, many factories have entered a state of suspension, with workers forced to take 3 months of annual leave in advance. This not only violates workers' rights but also poses a serious hidden danger to China's economic development. While workers lose normal working hours, they also lose their rightful wages and social security. Factory shutdowns undoubtedly paralyze the entire industrial chain, directly affecting millions of workers. This also raises concerns about China's foreign trade situation. If foreign trade orders cannot be restored in a timely manner, the downward trend of the economy will be difficult to contain, and the issue of workers' livelihoods becomes a significant problem for society, bringing considerable impact on the stability and development of the entire society. In recent months, with the threat of potential lockdown and free-fall economy of China, mass capital is escaping the mainland in hope of a better future. On June 7, Dalian customs officers discovered large sums of cash being delivered in beer cartons. The estimated amount is 14 million yuan, roughly 2 million USD. On November 24, customs officers at Xi'an Airport confiscated 2 bags of money worth 1 million yuan, roughly 140.000 USD. On November 3, at Hong Kong Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, customs officers caught a driver hiding 2 gold bars worth 900.000 yuan in shoes. Wealthy Chinese seek overseas assets. As China's economy shows signs of trouble, the country's wealthy elite are increasingly looking to move assets out of the mainland and into foreign safe havens. For key ways the rich are transferring wealth abroad are through purchasing gold, Hong Kong insurance policies, foreign currencies, and luxury overseas real estate. Gold remains a go-to asset for Chinese investors. Gold bars and bullion remain a popular asset for Chinese investors and savers looking to protect their wealth. The enduring appeal of the precious metal stems not only from its intrinsic value, but also the ease with which it can be transported. Customs officials at Chinese airports have noticed unusual volumes of gold bars appearing in luggage destined for overseas. The bars are often stuffed alongside large amounts of foreign banknotes. In November, customs officials at the Shenzhen Huangdong port intercepted a vehicle attempting to deliver 72 gold bars weighing a total of 72 kilograms, worth around 40 million RMB. Insurance policies in Hong Kong provide stability. Wealthy Chinese have been flocking to Hong Kong to open new bank accounts and take out insurance policies denominated in US dollars or other foreign currencies. The Hong Kong insurance channel has long facilitated Chinese investment in offshore assets. Demand has soared this year among both the extremely wealthy and middle class. Some brokers report Chinese families buying policies worth anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, several times higher than normal. Foreign currencies build flexibility. In addition to holding money in Hong Kong insurance policies, wealthy Chinese have been stockpiling other foreign banknotes. Chinese nationals have become the predominant purchasers of high-end apartments in Tokyo, with prices exceeding $3 million. According to Zhao Jie, CEO of Aviation, an online real estate listing service based in Tokyo, these transactions are frequently conducted using cash payments, often involving large amounts of money carried in suitcases. Zhao Jie noted the logistical challenges associated with handling such significant cash transactions. The most expensive overseas properties have become prime targets for wealthy Chinese buyers. Besides Japan, Chinese investors are gaining residency rights in other safe havens like Singapore and Australia by acquiring trophy real estate. The outflow shows no signs of slowing down. Rather than bets on China's future, these foreign asset purchases appear to be hedges against risk or even escapes from reality. With Beijing's strict capital controls, black market money transfers seem the most likely source of funding for billionaires fleeing China's turbulence. But the rigid constraints placed on moving money force most Chinese into a helpless position, unable to access foreign assets or currencies. The coming months will determine whether China's financial elite make it out in time and if Beijing stems from the swelling tides of capital flight. Capital flight soaring as $50 billion flees China every month. As faith in China's economy erodes, Chinese households and private businesses are rushing for the exits at an astonishing pace. According to recent data, around $50 billion in capital is escaping China every single month, dwarfing past months and pointing to accelerating loss of domestic business confidence. While expected after extensive COVID lockdowns, the stunning magnitude of capital flight has shocked economists. The $50 billion leaving China each month amounts to over $500 billion bleeding offshore annually just from private actors. And the volume is still growing based on customs checks and banking channel capacity caps getting hit faster every month. Even Chinese officials seem startled by the snowballing public rush to safeguard assets abroad rather than in Xi's economy. With Beijing unwilling to reverse nationalist policies that accelerated the business exodus, capital outflow appears poised to continue accelerating. And increasingly draconian capital controls have only pushed more Chinese firms and families into unofficial channels like smuggling bulk cash and luggage or laundering money through intermediary accounts. For consumer and investor sentiment so broadly soured, any government remedies seem incapable of stanching the coming tide. The relentless barrage of companies redomiciling overseas, elites purchasing foreign passports, and ordinary households diverting incomes into offshore accounts paints a bleak picture of China's road ahead. When 1.4 billion people lose communal faith in their economy's path, no amount of CCP propaganda or police intimidation can reverse the financial reckoning barreling towards Beijing. China's deepening capital flight crisis reflects realities Xi Jinping refuses to acknowledge, that his regime has perhaps permanently sabotaged China's economic future. Chinese local governments are desperately eating the rich. Across China, tax bureaus have recently launched sweeping audits of private companies, luxury goods dealers, real estate firms, and individual tycoons. According to Evan Osnos, a Pulitzer Prize-winning former China correspondent for The New Yorker, China is currently implementing a policy where banks are mandated to assess the assets of affluent individuals. Those possessing assets exceeding 30 million yuan, approximately 42 million USD, are obligated to relinquish 20% of their wealth. Non-compliance with this directive could result in a thorough tax investigation. This allows the government to aggressively seek out and gain fortune from high-incomers. When the Communist Party's internal discipline officers arrive to comb through decades of financial statements, backed by police authority, they cannot be refused. Those operations selected for targeting almost universally end up paying massive fines or surrendering large chunks of ownership essentially at gunpoint. And authorities frequently return multiple times seeking fresh infusions of private cash to prop up state budgets. Xi Jinping pressures China's elite families to donate assets. Chinese leader Xi Jinping is demanding that the families of the Red second generation, children of communist revolutionary leaders, surrender at least one-third of their assets to prop up the government amid an economic crisis. An anonymous online post claimed Xi is threatening to take measures if the families do not comply. The revelations highlight the financial pressures facing Xi as China confronts economic headwinds. With Xi seemingly unable to restart economic growth, he has resorted to targeting the assets of elite families, according to political scholar Wang Huntao. Wang said that under Xi's orders, all major elite families have already handed over a share of their wealth, with only two families exempt, those of former leaders Hu Jintao and Jiang Zemin. There are signs the authorities have already begun striking at top families. Anbang Group's Wu Xiaohui, Deng Xiaoping's son-in-law, was sentenced to 18 years in prison in 2018 on corruption charges, his assets seized. Xing Qinghong's niece's property firm was forced into bankruptcy. These moves hint at deep tensions between Xi and other Communist Party factions. The asset seizures also align with scholar Yuan Hongbing's claims that Xi is purging corrupt officials and confiscating their wealth to finance military spending. This follows Xi tasking the party's disciplinary commission chief to obtain 1.5 trillion yuan through anti-graft campaigns. The funds would prepare for a potential Taiwan conflict amid heightened cross-strait tensions. The asset seizures underscore the economic travails confronting Xi and the Communist Party. With growth sputtering, global rating agency Moody's recently downgraded its outlook on Chinese debt to negative, sparking Beijing's fury. The mounting crisis has forced Xi to sacrifice elite families' wealth to sustain his rule and military aims. but the internal resentment he sows could undermine his power from within the party in the long run. How wonder Chinese elites are fleeing China en masse. Beijing clamps down on capital outflows with severe controls. Spooked by intensifying capital flight, Beijing has imposed stringent new controls to lock Chinese money inside mainland borders. The multi-pronged crackdown aims directly at the channels Chinese households and companies utilize to funnel savings into overseas safe havens. But the draconian constraints have also raised business costs, distorted economic behavior, and spurred innovations in smuggling money past Communist Party regulators. Annual foreign exchange quota slashed. Among the toughest new measures, People's Bank of China has slashed the amount of foreign currency individuals can exchange annually from $50,000 down to just $10,000. Demand from Chinese households and companies to buy dollars or euros now vastly exceeds what's available within the official quota. This supply shortage drives up black market exchange rates. With the official door now mostly closed, average Chinese must either obtain foreign cash illegally from overseas sources or pay inflated prices to shady currency traders to purchase it domestically. By so severely limiting the amount of foreign currency people can buy, the Chinese government forces households into unappealing options. This adds financial pressure and economic distortions instead of establishing an orderly market for Chinese to protect savings abroad. Travelers face much stricter cash limits. In prior years, Chinese travelers could freely carry up to $5,000 worth of foreign banknotes when going abroad. But under new restrictions enforced this year, anyone entering or leaving China can only move $3,000 without special clearance. And customs officers have stepped up checks for undeclared currency. Anyone caught smuggling cash across borders risks fines, arrest, or worse if caught. Overseas investing channels severely disrupted. Both institutional and retail investors relying on Hong Kong's external financial gateway have seen access severed by Beijing's capital control crackdown. Chinese regulators have forced the closure of mainland customer trading channels by online brokers Futu and Tiger Brokers. And banks must now cut off mainland residents from opening new offshore investing accounts. These bars on overseas allocation deal direct blows to investment funds and estates seeking to shed Chinese holdings. Black markets rush to fill unmet demand. Rather than dissuading savers determined to escape, however, China's strict new capital controls have bred more creative schemes to sneak money abroad. Suitcases of cash are being trafficked to neighboring countries before wired to final destinations. Money changers fluidly move cash between Chinese buyers and foreign exchange pools in Hong Kong or Singapore to dodge constraints. And inflated invoices mask currency conversions via trade intermediaries. But for average Chinese companies and families without special political access, transferring meaningful capital abroad has become almost impossible thanks to Beijing's fearful hoarding. While Xi Jinping may delay a reckoning, China's future progress relies on efficient capital allocation and intellectual exchange with the world, both of which its rigid controls deeply obstruct. Chinese innovate to smuggle money abroad around capital controls. Faced with yearly limits of just $10,000 to convert into foreign cash, Chinese people have become very creative in scheming up ways to skirt currency control regulations. Black market currency trading shops have proliferated to meet surging underground demand. And techniques like splitting conversion quotas allow some to multiply annual allocations on paper, and ant-moving house by dispersing quotas. Chinese citizens exploit loopholes in China's strict oversight of foreign exchange conversion by dividing up the measly $10,000 annual allowance across more individuals. This scheme, likened to ants cooperating to move a larger object, relies on relatives and friends using their own quota allocations on each other's behalf. A family of 4 could thus convert up to $40,000 a year between them by each changing $10,000 worth of yuan, then transferring the dollars or euro to the same person. This ant-moving house approach clearly violates the spirit of capital controls, but outpaces the ability of regulators to keep up. Underground money traders fill unmet demand. With far more Chinese lined up to exchange yuan than the rigid $10,000 individual limit allows, illegal currency dealers have stepped in to address the shortfall. These underground money houses offer to swap Chinese wanting to obtain dollars or other foreign cash far above the capped amounts by creatively working around national restrictions. The dealers exploit various channels like importing currency from abroad or tying transfers to cross-border merchandise trade to collect payment in yuan and deliver equivalent foreign currency using overseas bank accounts. Such brokerage clearly breaches China's capital control regimen. Yet operators remain elusive enough to keep funneling currency to meet repressed demand. As Chinese authorities intensify efforts to halt capital flight, tensions rise. Beijing continues enacting harsher penalties, stricter oversight of foreign transactions, and limiting access to other currencies. Yet for average citizens and companies, the motivation to secure savings abroad persists amid eroding faith in domestic conditions. Rather than stemming the outflows, China's severe constraints have bred anger at perceived government overreach and sparked innovations in evading controls. With no easy remedies in sight, the standoff looks poised to continue escalating. Both sides seem to have passed the point of no return, Beijing locked into an authoritarian stance while people vote with their money against Xi's vision. As Chinese innovation runs up against state power, the ultimate outcomes remain highly uncertain. But an uneasy quasi-stalemate may emerge, where outflow channels stay just one step ahead of the heaviest crackdowns. For China's economic prospects, however, the lasting damage to investor and consumer confidence over financial security poses the true long-term risk.
A wild phenomenon is sweeping China, a nationwide movement of people buying gold as a means of self-preservation. With real estate prices plummeting, the stock market hitting rock bottom, citizens are flocking to gold stores with the belief that gold is the only safe haven left. In China, an unprecedented frenzy is unfolding as people rush to buy gold. When individuals in China have money, what do? They hurry to invest in gold. Why gold? Many used to invest in real estate, but now, with property values collapsing even in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai, the so-called dream houses are being sold at half the price, and negotiations often start with a $1,000,000 reduction. This is a terrifying scenario. Since money can no longer be parked in real estate, some might consider the stock market. But with the Shanghai Stock Exchange now dipping below 3,000 points, the Chinese stock market is in a free fall. Even Xi'an admits he's been harvested like a leek. Now that the stock market is not an option and real estate is out of the picture, what about putting money in the bank? The scary part is that in many places, including Hainan and Shandong, after depositing money in the bank, you might find it difficult to withdraw. So, what we are witnessing now is an undeniable reality in China, where people are frenziedly buying gold. Yes, every Chinese citizen, regardless of age or gender, is rushing to the silver store. Why are they buying gold? Because, truth be told, after making money, they have no safe place to keep it. In the past, people used to deposit money in banks, but now, in many places, including Hainan and Shandong, when you deposit money, you might find it difficult to withdraw it. Therefore, the current scene in China is people truly going crazy to buy gold. After Moody's downgrades the credit rating of the Chinese government, what are the consequences? The adjustment of China's government credit rating by rating agencies will ultimately be reflected in the renminbi exchange rate. As the inflation in the United States slows down, the U.S. dollar index falls and the People's Bank of China opportunistically takes advantage of the drop in the U.S. dollar index, aggressively pulling up the renminbi exchange rate. Despite the painstaking efforts of the People's Bank of China to raise the renminbi exchange rate to around 7.1, Moody's adjustment is like a sudden blow, subjecting the renminbi exchange rate to renewed pressure. Essentially, in the global economy, there are many indices to gauge economic conditions, and credit rating is one of them. It will ultimately reflect the economic situation of the economy. Therefore, everyone needs to be cautious, especially in the realm of renminbi exchange rates. Second-hand housing market collapses completely. Shanghai homeowners urgently selling houses, offering rewards of an Audi and an iPhone. Second-hand housing market collapses completely. Shanghai homeowners urgently selling houses, offering rewards of an Audi and an iPhone. Shanghai homeowners are resorting to new tactics when selling houses, and one cannot help but wonder, is selling houses this challenging now? A commitment letter from a self-proclaimed owner in Baoshan District's Sanhua Modern City is, in fact, a bounty for real estate agents. The gist is that anyone who can help sell his house before December 30th will be rewarded with a 2019 Audi A4 under the owner's name. Additionally, for every group of clients brought in to view the house, a cash reward of 200 yuan will be given, and after the deal is completed, 15 Apple iPhones will be given as well. It seems that every means is being employed to sell the house. Do you think the houses in this group must be more expensive than others? He immediately adds that regardless of how much other similar properties have been reduced through online price comparisons, he will reduce another 50,000. How about that? Is it sincere enough? Moreover, the additional commission is quite lucrative, with a contractual payment of 2%. When added to the commission paid by the client, it is indeed a substantial amount. Through this post, it is evident that the owner is very sincere, but selling the house is difficult. Another strategy is employed by homeowners in Erkun, Tonghang, Baoshan, who offer cash rewards, ranging from 1 to 3,000 yuan, or directly reward several electric cars based on the transaction points. In these situations, these rewards send a consistent signal. The second-hand housing market in Shanghai is still rapidly cooling down, and homeowners are going all out to sell their properties. The housing prices in Shanghai have already dropped to an unbearable level. The community where I currently reside has already experienced a 30% drop. Many people who bought houses in recent years are on the verge of losing their down payments. Not only is it difficult to sell houses in Shanghai now, but renting is also challenging. We all know that many people left last year due to layoffs and an increase in unemployment. This undoubtedly has an impact on rental housing, with a significant decrease in rental clients in many areas, some even experiencing a 50% reduction. The areas most affected are the lower-priced houses in the outer ring and high-end rentals, and the worst hit is the rental business involving foreign clients. In Shanghai, a mysterious landlord is selling 93 properties in one go. It's worth noting that this is happening in the extremely valuable Lujiazui area. Selling each house at an 80% discount means losing millions of yuan. Why would they engage in such a loss-making deal? What's the hidden story behind this? Well, it turns out that the mysterious landlord is none other than the World Trade Group. Selling at an 80% discount directly attracted 30,000 people rushing to buy, and no one could stop them. Buyers at the discounted rate, however, have a condition. They must pay the full amount up front. The truth is that these 93 properties have long been mortgaged to financial institutions by the World Trade Group. Currently, they cannot be bought or sold unless the mortgage is lifted, meaning the World Trade Group pays off the 9.5 billion yuan loan, allowing for normal online signings and property transfers. However, this loan is due to expire in a month. The World Trade Group has not paid it off early. On the day of purchase, with a large number of participants, many people paid a deposit of 500,000 yuan on the spot. When it came time to sign the contract, unexpectedly, the agent brought a letter of acknowledgement. The general content was that the houses currently have a mortgage. If there is a risk of being unable to process the loan and property transfer in the future, customers need to bear the responsibility themselves. This letter of acknowledgement is essentially a pit that the developer has dug for the buyers, waiting for them to jump in. Consumer downgrading emptying of the CBD in Shenyang, rapid return to poverty, the fashion industry in Guangzhou heating towards extinction, overcapacity, the industrial and commercial sectors facing a lack of orders, a sluggish market, employment difficulties, and even customers at the vegetable markets reluctant to buy. Farmers raising cattle complain, can't hold on anymore, really can't hold on. Give the common people a way out. Cabbages and green onions are rotting in the fields with no buyers. And all the essential items around the common people, such as seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and fodder, are soaring in price. It has long fallen below the cost line, leaving the common people confused. Has the money really experienced deflation or inflation? Is the money genuine or fake? Those who cultivate the land cannot afford to buy seeds, and those who raise cattle cannot afford to eat beef. Does this sound right? My family and I have been working outside for more than 10 years, saving up a bit of money, and invested it all in buying cattle, thinking of leading a stable rural life, without the need to work in two different places. It's good for the family to be together, but I never expected that the day would come when I would lose money doing manual labor. Mainland China's lamb prices have also been declining recently, with some areas experiencing prices as low as 50% of the peak period. Some citizens have expressed that people don't have money in their hands and can't afford to consume. A netizen named Daxing commented, "Seafood, meat, basically, everything is losing value. Consumption is really tough. Some people indeed find it hard to earn money, and those who manage to earn some are saving up for future uncertainties." According to monitoring by the Chinese Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs of 500 wholesale markets in the mainland, as of the second week of November, November 6th to 10th, the price of pork was 15.18 yuan per kilogram. This represents a month-on-month decrease of 0.73 yuan per kilogram, a decline of 4.5% compared to the previous month, and a 42.1% decrease compared to the same period last year. 3 months, 400,000 new additions. Ride-hailing drivers in China turning inward amid economic downturn. According to information from the Chinese Ministry of Transport, from the end of April to the end of July 2023, approximately 400,000 people signed up to become ride-hailing drivers. Analyst Wang Kei from Analysis stated that, due to the impact of the pandemic over the past 3 years, many companies and small businesses have gone bankrupt or closed down. Consequently, a significant amount of idle labor has entered the market. The employment threshold for ride-hailing drivers is relatively low, making it a popular choice for many. Money is also flowing. China increases pressure on foreign companies, triggering a flight from China. In the past 5 days, foreign capital has withdrawn more than 97 billion yuan. Shanghai, China, is experiencing a sharp drop in rental prices, and a man who made a video revealing the reasons has been summoned for questioning. Many foreigners have left, leading to a drastic decline in rental prices on Fuxing Road in Shanghai. Do you know why? Previously, multinational companies from the Fortune Global 500 used to foot the bill for their employees' housing, showcasing their financial strength. However, they have now departed, resulting in a significant decrease in demand for rental properties and, consequently, a sharp decline in rental prices. Prominent Chinese economist Wu Jinglian has stated that the socio-economic contradictions in China have nearly reached a critical point. He mentioned, "I have spoken multiple times at the end of the last century that in this dual system of a semi-command economy and a semi-market economy, Chinese society has always faced the question of where to go. There are 2 possible grim futures in front of us. One is to move along the path of reform to improve the market economy, limit administrative power, and move toward the rule of law in the market economy. The other is to follow the path of strengthening government functions in national capitalism, heading towards the dead end of aristocratic capitalism.
On December 8th, a netizen recorded a very alarming situation at Shanghai Airport. Not only does it not have many customers, but also many stores there are closed. The Wuhan Tianhe International Airport is a very large airport, but there are so few international flights that the airport seems deserted. Ghost airports have become a big problem within China this year. It indicated a massive economic issue as well as the image of China in the international community. China is becoming less and less attractive in the eyes of nations around the world. All these videos of Chinese citizens are in just a span of 2 months, showing that the situation is spiraled quickly out of control. At the Nanyang airport, the waiting line only has 3 people, for if counting the netizens who filmed this. The empty Chinese airports look like a zombie apocalypse is happening in China. Let's take a look at the real Pudong Airport International Zone border at 8 o'clock in the evening. There is no queue and there is almost no one. Starbucks was closed, and only one of the Rishang duty-free shops was open, which was almost empty. Most of the shops in this row were also closed. Some of the shops that were open did not see any customers. Some duty-free shops directly marked their closure. Beijing Capital International Airport plummets in rankings. Beijing Capital International Airport, once considered the world's second busiest airport in terms of passenger traffic, has seen a dramatic fall in both its ranking and flight activity over the past 3 years. A video recorded on December 14th showing Beijing Capital International Airport with just a few customers. Beijing Capital International Airport, BCIA, was once the undisputed busiest airport in mainland China. In 2019, it served over 100 million passengers, claiming the top spot for passenger throughput nationwide. However, BCIA's dominance came to an abrupt halt with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. That year, passenger numbers at BCIA plummeted a staggering 65.5% to just 34.51 million. This massive drop in travelers caused BCIA to fall from first to fifth busiest airport in China. The situation further deteriorated in 2021, with another 5% decline to 32.64 million passengers. BCIA fell to sixth busiest that year. By 2022, traffic nosedived a further 87% compared to pre-pandemic times to a mere 12.72 million. This represented the lowest annual passenger throughput at BCIA in the entire 21st century. Their ranking plunged to 11th nationwide. Mirroring the freefall in traveler demand, BCIA's financial performance has also drastically worsened since 2020. They registered a net loss of 2.035 billion Chinese yuan in 2020. Losses further increased to 2.117 billion Chinese yuan in 2021 and a record 3.527 billion Chinese yuan in 2022. Over the 3 years from 2020 to 2022, BCIA racked up a cumulative net loss of 7.7 billion Chinese yuan, making it the king of losses among Chinese airports for 3 years straight. Entering 2023, BCIA's fortunes have shown little sign of positive change. In the first 9 months, losses continued mounting to 1.336 billion Chinese yuan. Meanwhile, rival airports in Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and Xiamen have managed to remain profitable despite the softened demand. Most remarkably, in Q3 2023, as the entire airport industry turned the corner to profitability, BCIA stubbornly remained in the red with a 300 million Chinese yuan net loss. They were the only major listed airport still losing money in that quarter. In summary, the impact of COVID-19 on Beijing Capital International Airport has been unusually severe and prolonged. The once busy hub saw passenger traffic diminish by almost 90% between 2019 and 2022. Competitor airports have since stabilized or recovered, but BCIA, formerly top one in the country, continues to bleed money and lag behind rivals 3 years into the pandemic. Their precipitous decline in both passengers and profitability shows no sign of rapid reversion. It may take years and substantial changes before China's struggling capital airport regains its former preeminence. The less than 1 million annual passengers recorded in 2022 signifies an unprecedented low for the airport since the 21st century. And even with China relaxing pandemic restrictions this year, flight activity shows little sign of revival. Data as of August 2023 puts the airport's annual rate at around 40% of its 2019 traffic, a reality that should concern an airport that was adding terminals in expectation of continued growth just years prior. The declines in service have translated directly into deepening financial woes. Beijing Capital Airport's net losses have ballooned from 2 billion renminbi in 2020 to 3.5 billion renminbi in 2022, leading it to become China's lone loss-making listed airport of 2023 to date. Beijing Daxing Airport fails to take flight, plagued by losses. The financial outcomes for Beijing Daxing International Airport, which opened to great fanfare in September 2019, have fallen severely short of initial projections and expectations. Beijing Daxing International Airport is also very empty. The 80 billion renminbi airport was personally inaugurated by President Xi Jinping and Politburo members Liu He and Han Zheng, signaling the prestige and hopes tied to the project by China's leaders. Envisioned as the world's largest single terminal at 1.4 million square meters, Daxing was intended to usher Beijing into becoming an elite aviation dual hub handling over 250 million passengers per year alongside the city's existing capital airport. However, less than 4 months after its splashy launch, COVID-19 hit China, inflicting 3 years of suppressed travel demand. This proved catastrophic for an airport banking on a continual surge in traffic. In 2022, observers began noticing duty-free shops and global brands closing at Daxing Airport locations due to insufficient sales. By September 2022, the airport's waiting halls and concourses were described as eerily empty on a daily basis. The expectation was that consolidating Beijing's flights between two megahubs would enhance efficiency. But industry insiders now believe dividing air traffic has led to underutilization of both Daxing and capital airports, weakening revenue. Ultimately, Daxing has failed completely to achieve its initial goal of handling over 100 million annual passengers. This in turn has greatly hampered the airport's ability to cover its high fixed costs. Financial losses have kept pace with plummeting utilization rates. While forecasters work to revise Daxing's traffic and financial outlook to more sustainable levels, Beijing's airport dual hub strategy, for now at least, can be considered fully grounded. The years ahead will determine whether Daxing's vast infrastructure investment can be turned profitable or else risk becoming a white elephant unable to cover its costs. Foreign arrivals to China plummet 90% in 2022 amid souring geopolitics and unwelcoming policies. New antipathy between China and Western powers paired with increasingly inhospitable visa policies have proven toxic for travel and tourism inflows this year. Arrivals of foreign guests are estimated to have fallen by 90%, effectively wiping out the market. Geopolitical realignments see the US, Europe, and allies guarding security and supply chains by disentangling dependence on China. The resultant chill has baselined cross-border business travel. Rising nationalist rhetoric additionally dissuades leisure tourists. Outside high-level delegations, visitor staples like students, tech specialists, and manufacturers have faded. On top of souring diplomatic stances, China's new laws have cultivated an aura many deem hostile. The broad anti-espionage law implemented July 1st has foreigners questioning if any critique of Beijing online or in text makes them vulnerable to detention or interrogation upon entry. One particularly alarming piece of media depicts foreigners being flagged as walking 500,000 renminbi rewards. It encourages reporting casual passerbys simply for carrying recording devices or acting suspiciously near sensitive sites. Whether deliberately or not, such narratives hint at guilt by association. The sum effect sees planes arriving near empty after a year when airlines had restored most worldwide capacity. The void has devastated duty-free store revenues while contributing to consecutive years of steep losses at airports that bulked up infrastructure for guests no longer coming. Hosting international visitors necessitates hospitality and cultural exchange. Tenants challenged when law enforcement rhetoric fixates on risks rather than community. While visas are easier to obtain, turning global perception of openness remains less straightforward as geopolitics test China's integration. Beijing could see travel activity tick upward through incentives. However, analyst consensus agrees a true rebound relies on improved bilateral relations and messaging that visitors are valued rather than threats. Of course, who would dare to travel to China when? The Chinese Communist Party reports COVID-19 fatalities. Medical staff say major outbreak underway. The CCP's recent announcement of COVID-19 deaths sends a grave signal about the situation. The Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported on December 12 that in November, there were 135 new severe COVID-19 cases and 8 deaths in China. This followed 209 severe cases and 24 deaths in October. However, these official figures are being heavily scrutinized and doubted by the outside world, with many believing the actual numbers of severe cases and deaths are much higher. In recent months, there has been a significant outbreak across China, with hospitals continuously overwhelmed. The CCP has consistently covered up the outbreak and avoided mentioning the coronavirus, even as prevention measures were escalated in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, including nucleic acid testing at conferences and airports and disinfection in schools. The government's recent reporting of severe and fatal COVID-19 cases indicates an increasingly dire situation in China. Not only are a large number of children and students infected, but the number of adult and elderly patients is also rising rapidly. A report by China National Radio on December 11 stated that, according to survey data, 8 out of every 10 flu-related deaths are among the elderly. Videos have shown overcrowded hospitals in Beijing and Shanghai, with hallways and corridors filled with people. The situation is dire in both adult and children's hospitals, with long wait times and overwhelming patient numbers. As the outbreak continues to spread, the CCP has recently initiated a new round of COVID-19 vaccinations, urging the elderly and key groups to get vaccinated with vaccines containing antigens from the XBB variant. The Chinese CDC stated that the XBB variant of the coronavirus is currently the predominant strain in domestic outbreaks in China, with a strong ability to evade immunity and cause breakthrough infections. Experts warn that a new peak of the outbreak may occur around the new year. China's aviation industry faces deep crisis as all signs point to long-lasting decline. The sharp worsening of key indicators shows China's aviation business remains stuck in a post-COVID slump, with few seeing meaningful turnaround anytime soon. The most visible sign has been years of money-losing airports across Beijing, Shanghai, and more. Together they have bled over $60 billion since 2020 as terminals made for booming traffic stand largely empty. But the financial damage stems from a bigger plunge in demand. Look at travel spending habits. Business trip spending stayed muted all year as conferences and corporate flights got scrapped. And stats show Chinese consumers favored cheaper over luxury flights seen in rock-bottom fares to places like Thailand to get anyone booking. Yet despite dirt-cheap ticket prices, airlines kept axing routes due to too few bookings. Peak summer schedule cuts topped 40% internationally. Experts describe a squeeze where airlines get caught between low earnings per seat and planes flying too empty, but raising fares only discourages more flyers. The wider situation offers little upbeat news either. Policy leaders call to resume global routes, but politics and virus rules have turned away regional and long-haul travelers respectively. Meanwhile, China's shaky economy curbs discretionary spending for the rising middle class. Taken together, the range of measures around flights, visitors, consumer patterns, and basic economics unanimously point to a prolonged downturn ahead. Early hopes of a reopen and rebound have given way to warnings that reaching even 75% of 2019 capacity may take 5 years, assuming no other global crises or policy reversals. No one doubts air travel will eventually reignite stronger than before. But for now, bosses are left scrambling for temporary measures as the foundations sustaining the business stay conspicuously damaged. China's aviation industry is a total mess. All the country's big airports are losing money hard and are basically empty these days. They spent insane amounts of cash getting ready for tons more flights and travelers that never showed up. Now these fancy terminals just collect dust cause no one's flying. Both vacationers and business folks avoid booking trips. Chinese people skimp on travel to save bucks as the economy struggles. And other countries remain suspicious of China's unpredictable COVID rules. Add in some political bad blood and foreigners are staying away too. Furthermore, experts agree this downhill slide is going to continue. The whole aviation scene might never fully bounce back to normal again after this long crash landing. Flights are getting cut left and right. Airlines are struggling to survive. Piggybacking billions on growth was clearly wishful thinking. The days of packed Chinese airports are ancient history with no return in sight. For an industry that aimed so high before, it's a pathetic faceplant they're still lying flat from. All the plans and dreams got slammed hard. Now it's just burned wreckage that ain't going nowhere. Social unrest is unfolding in China with widespread protests taking place. On December 5th, a multitude of educators, including teachers from private schools, substitute teachers, and kindergarten teachers, assembled outside the Liaoning Provincial Department of Education to stage a rally and advocate for their rights. Meanwhile, in Wuchang City, Heilongjiang Province, hundreds of retired teachers gathered to protest in front of the city government building, expressing their grievances over unpaid heating subsidies. In Xi'an, Hunan Province, a significant contingent of teachers took to the streets to protest against unpaid wages. Several educators conveyed through social media that despite their years of commitment to education, they have not been granted adequate social security and fair treatment. With the mounting challenges of soaring living expenses and escalating retirement and medical fees, their pleas are growing more urgent. Videos captured scenes of numerous police officers stationed both inside and outside the Provincial Department of Education building. Crowds amassed outside the sealed front gates, occupying the sidewalks. A woman declared, "Today is December 5th, and we are advocating for the rights of private, substitute, and kindergarten teachers." On the 5th of December, a group of about 300 retired educators in Wuchang City, Heilongjiang Province, staged a demonstration in front of the municipal government headquarters. Their grievance centered around the long-overdue heating expense subsidies. According to some teachers, a meeting between the mayor and 5 representatives took place around noon, during which a commitment was made to provide an update on the matter by the end of December. However, the protesting teachers, expressing their frustration on social media, revealed that the government had neglected to disburse heating subsidies to hundreds of retired teachers in the city's 28 townships for 2 consecutive years. Despite their persistent advocacy for their rights, a concrete solution has yet to emerge. Videos circulating online depicted large gatherings outside the Wuchang Municipal Government building, where the protesters passionately demanded, "Meet with the mayor." On that very day in Xi'an, Hunan Province, a significant assembly of retired teachers took to the streets outside the Zhuoxiao District Commission office, protesting the delay in their wages. On the 3rd of November, a powerful demonstration unfolded in Nanchang City, Jiangxi Province, where over 1,000 teachers gathered outside the Xi'an County government. The purpose was to reclaim performance-based wages owed by the government. Videos captured the scene of sizable nighttime crowds passionately chanting slogans like "We want to survive" and "Give teachers back their hard-earned money." These individuals are justified in expressing their frustration. Rampant corruption has adversely affected ordinary Chinese citizens, pushing them toward financial ruin, while officials continue to indulge in luxury. Outrage as 80 million Chinese public employees consume 40% of fiscal expenditure, netizens voice discontent. In the aftermath, Dochui Media's People News released an article stating approximately 800 million individuals in China receive financial support from the government. This constitutes nearly 5% of the entire national population, a staggering figure. Among them are civil servants, employees of institutions and state-owned enterprises, along with other urban workers. Their financial sustenance, covering salaries, pensions, and various expenses, is predominantly dependent on fiscal allocations. The data indicates that the remuneration provided to these individuals accounts for 40% of the country's overall fiscal expenditure, amounting to approximately 10 trillion RMB. This exceptionally high proportion has significantly constrained fiscal investments in crucial sectors such as education and healthcare, creating an onerous financial burden. In contrast, the earnings and retirement benefits of the majority of workers lag far behind. Taking the year 2023 as an illustration, the national average monthly salary hovers around 5,000 RMB, whereas many financially supported individuals receive pensions exceeding 10,000 RMB, doubling that of ordinary workers. The article asserts that the current bifurcated wage and social security system has disrupted the rational distribution of societal resources. On one hand, retired financially supported individuals can enjoy substantial pensions for an extended period without the necessity to continue working. Ordinary workers, with lower retirement income, must choose to remain employed to augment their earnings. This imbalance in the allocation of human resources is a consequence. The article advocates for expediting reforms of the social security system and establishing a unified, sustainable security framework. The fundamental direction of the reform involves integrating the basic pension insurance system for workers with the pension programs for rural and urban residents, eliminating existing disparities. The goal is to ensure not only uniform coverage and benefits but also to dismantle the prevailing hierarchical system, fostering new relationships founded on equal rights and obligations among all members of society. On November 1st, real estate analyst Housing Search, with millions of Weibo followers, shared publicly available data indicating that China had 7.1 million civil servants in 2022. When including affiliated agencies, communist groups, trade unions, etc., the total reaches 13 million people. Institutional employees amount to 31 million people, totaling 44 million. Adding retired personnel, China's fiscally supported population has surpassed 80 million. A netizen commented, stating that according to statistics, over 80 million people are currently financially supported in China, constituting 40% of tax revenue. The escalating number of debtors in China has reached a record high, with 8.54 million individuals blacklisted due to the government's official stance on their inability to repay overdue loans. The repercussions of the government's actions disproportionately affect ordinary citizens. Official Chinese statistics reveal that a significant 8.54 million people have been blacklisted for their failure to meet repayment obligations, encompassing mortgages, business loans, and other debts. This figure represents about 1% of China's labor force, marking a substantial increase from the 5.7 million people recorded during the initial stages of pandemic control in early 2020. The Financial Times underscores that the surge in defaulters poses a considerable challenge to boosting consumer confidence in China, a nation integral to global demand as the world's second-largest economy. Furthermore, the absence of personal bankruptcy laws in China exacerbates the difficulty in mitigating the broader impact of the debt surge on both financial institutions and society. This blacklist, resulting from legal actions taken by banks and creditors against debtors failing to meet repayment deadlines, imposes a range of economic restrictions on those listed. Chinese law prohibits blacklisted individuals from participating in various economic activities, including purchasing plane tickets, using mobile payment apps like Alipay and WeChat Pay, holding government positions, and even driving on toll roads. These restrictions further impede economic recovery and dampen consumer confidence. The personal debt crisis follows a surge in borrowing by Chinese consumers. Data from the National Institution for Finance and Development, a Beijing think tank, indicates that household debt, as a percentage of GDP, has reached 64% as of September this year, nearly double the figure from a decade ago. As the cost of living rises, borrowing becomes essential for survival, highlighting the challenges faced by the Chinese people and the impact of government policies on their daily lives. Moody's triple downgrades raise concerns about the Chinese economy. Due to these circumstances, on December 6, following the downgrade of China's credit rating outlook to negative on December 5, Moody's proceeded to further downgrade the outlook for various entities, including the governments of Hong Kong and Macau, 8 Chinese banks, 36 Chinese non-financial and state-owned infrastructure companies along with their subsidiaries, and 22 local government financing platforms, shifting their status from stable to negative. Liang Xiaohua, a former chief compliance officer at a mainland Chinese asset management company, emphasized that as ratings decline, there is a noticeable exodus of foreign companies, investments, and capital, indicating a lack of confidence in China's economic future. The downgrade affects state-owned banks, closely tied to the Chinese government and banking system's credit. Moody's explained that the downgrade of financial institutions' ratings primarily stems from the government's credit rating outlook downgrade. The agency anticipates a more selective approach to providing support to entities in financial distress, posing long-term risks for additional pressure on state-owned enterprises, regions, and local governments. Highlighting the interconnectedness of banks and real estate, Liang Xiaohua expressed concern about the impact of a real estate collapse on the financial sector. As major Chinese banks are politically influenced, efforts to manage risks through accounting practices and technical methods have limitations, leading to potential risks being exposed. The 8 affected banks include 3 policy banks and 5 large state-owned commercial banks. Wan Junxiu, a professor of finance at Northeastern University in Boston, highlighted the significant challenges faced by China, particularly in the real estate market, with increasing defaults and potential higher risks for financial institutions. Moody's also acknowledged the economic and financial ties between Hong Kong and China, predicting that China's economic slowdown and widespread financial risks will affect Hong Kong's credit conditions. The erosion of Hong Kong's political and judicial autonomy, coupled with tightening institutional and political ties, may diminish its attractiveness to international businesses. The downgrade also extended to 18 Chinese companies, including Alibaba and Tencent, reflecting the overall downgraded outlook for China. Chinese authorities expressed disappointment, and the Hong Kong government criticized it as unreasonable, attributing it to foreign forces smearing Hong Kong without cause. The unrest and economic instability in China underscore systemic issues that have escalated over time. The Communist Party's emphasis on control and reliance on state-run systems has led to inefficiencies and growing inequality. As living costs rise, ordinary Chinese citizens bear the brunt of economic decline and restrictive policies. The government's response of suppression and censorship further erodes public trust. The widespread protests in China reveal deep-seated frustration stemming from corruption, lack of representation, and unequal treatment. The increasing number of debt defaulters and retirees facing withheld benefits signals an economy under strain. Moody's downgrades echo a declining faith in China's financial future both domestically and internationally. The Chinese Communist Party faces a populace increasingly willing to voice grievances publicly despite the risk of retaliation. The reliance on security crackdowns indicates an unwillingness to acknowledge the extent of discontent.